So let's pick up from lesson 3.1 with example 3. How to approximate square roots with a calculator. Pretty funny it's not showing us the whole title there. There we go. When we use a calculator, the key thing to remember about using a calculator is we want to use parentheses. We need to make sure that our rational exponent is in parentheses so that the calculator doesn't follow order of operations. If we forget the parentheses, the calculator is going to read this problem as 10 squared divided by 3, which following order of operations would be 100 divided by 3, which equals 33 and 3/10 repeating. We don't want that to happen. So make sure you put parentheses around your rational exponents, especially if it's a negative. That's the negative sign on your calculator. Usually below the 3 is the negative sign to use for the rational exponents. All right, let's move on to the next example. Yeah. All right. So, example 4, we're going to solve equations using nth roots. Again, we are missing the rest of the title there. There we go. Solve equations using nth roots. And solving equations using nth roots is about the same as what we've done before with solving quadratic equations. All we're going to do is get rid of the coefficient first, just like we've done in the past. Again, it's order of operations backwards, so we get rid of the division before we get rid of the exponent. So this gives us x to the 6th, which equals 729. Now we have to look at this for a moment to make sure we account for all of the possible answers. Since the exponent is an even number, that means we're going to have possibly one real solution, two real solutions, or no real solutions. So we have to look at what the a value is. And in this case, it is obviously much greater than 0, so that means we have two real solutions. We have a positive and a negative solution. So all you need to do is take your calculator, 729 raised to the 1 divided by 6, close parentheses, enter, execute, whatever button you push to get the answer. So 729 raised to the 1 divided by 6, close parentheses, and that gives us 3. So our answer is positive or negative 3. And again, we need to put a box or a circle around our answers so we know exactly where on my messy paper this will be at. Alright, so for example B, we have in parentheses x plus 2 raised to the 5th power equals 35. So we need to get rid of the exponent first so that we can get the parentheses by itself. So we're going to take the 5th root on each side. So that means x plus 2 is equal to the 5th root of 35. Now, we're eventually going to want to know what that value is using our calculator, but for now, let's keep it as this. And let's subtract 2. So now we know that x is equal to negative 2 plus the 5th root of 35. And since 5 is obviously an odd number, we're only going to have one real answer here. So, in our calculators, negative 2 plus 35 raised to the 1/5 power, so in parentheses, 1 divided by 5, close parentheses, and we get approximately 0.036, so that rounds to 0.04. We want to make sure that we are rounding to 2 decimal places, and because we are going to be standard on that, that's one thing I will be checking for, is making sure that we're all rounding to the same value. Remember, at any point, if you need to, you can stop the recording, rewind it, pause it, to take in what all is going on. You can move this at your own pace. If you think I'm talking too quickly, listen to it a couple times. You'll probably catch what you've missed before. Okay, so now let's go ahead and take a look at our Next example, this is actually going to be our last example before we get into the practice problems. So example 5, using nth roots in problem solving. Of course, we're not going to get away from word problems. That would never happen. Alright, so the volume of a beach ball can be approximated using the model V equals 4/3 times pi times radius cubed, where r is the radius of the ball in inches. Estimate the radius of the ball if the volume is 382 cubic inches. Of course, we know a ball. Alright. I love drawing here, especially on the smartboard. It's a sphere, so we're going to use the volume of a sphere as our basis here. So copy down the formula, and then we're just going to walk through the steps. So we know that the volume is 382 cubic inches. So let's plug that in, and then we're going to work backwards. I'm going to switch up the pen ink here so I can show you the process I'm taking to work the problem. Let's choose blue. I think that's a nice color. First thing I want to do is I want to get rid of this 4/3. So I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal, because that, as we know, will get rid of any fractional coefficients. When I multiply 382 by 3/4, or 0.75, I get an answer of 286.5. This is now equal to pi times r to the 3rd degree. Now I'm going to divide by pi at this point. Now use the pi button on your calculator. So that might take a little looking for, but you want to become very familiar where the pi button is on your calculator. We could estimate 3.14, but that's not an exact answer. That's actually rounding too quickly. We don't want to round until the very end. So if you hit divide and then whatever necessary to get to the pi, for Texas Instruments we have to hit second and then the little caret button actually is where the pi is. And you'll get an answer. It's approximately 91.19578239. But that's an approximation because technically this number is irrational. It keeps going on with the decimal. And we still have to take the cube root of this. So I don't want to round this yet. I'm going to go ahead and put down a couple of numbers just to give you an approximation of where your answer should be. But I'm not using that on my calculator. My calculator still has the entire decimal. Because now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the caret button. Alright? And when I do that, it says answer, and then the caret button. Because that's taking the answer to the previous question, which is that 91.1957, etc. It's taking that. So now parentheses, 1 divided by 3, close parentheses. Enter. And now I have a number 4.5011, so on and so forth. Alright, and this is what r is equal to because I've taken the cube root of both sides. And now this is what I'm going to round to the nearest 2 decimal places, but of course when I do that I get 4.50, so we'll just drop off that extra 0. So the radius is 4.5 inches. Remember, word problems, don't forget your labels. A number of you did that on your quiz and your test, so you want to make sure you remember your labels for your word problems. Alright, so let's clear this off. Like I said, if you need to, pause, rewind, take a look at it again, but for now, it's going away. If only the whiteboard would erase that easily. Alright, so now on your own, here are 4 more problems that I would like for you to try. So go ahead and pause the recording so that you just see the image. Work these problems at your own pace. And when you're ready, go ahead and click play and continue on. Alright, welcome back. Well, here are the answers to the last 4 questions. I hope you did well with them. Oops, I noticed a typo. Really, this one up here ideally would read -0.46. 7, I must have been in a hurry when I typed this up. That's a silly mistake. If you have any questions about this, we'll go over it in class, but this gives you an idea of what these lessons will look like in the future. And of course, you can always email me, and I will reply as quickly as possible. That's one of the best ways to get a hold of me. Have a great day. See you in class.